In December of 2020, I signed up for a webinar from CPA Canada. Foresight, reimagining the profession. It was clear then, and still is, that we're facing a staffing crisis in our profession. An aging population and Canadian demographics generally were playing a part, but overreach in our profession was also a factor. We reconfigured the educational requirements in the 1980s when the three legacy accounting bodies were competing for bragging rights about who is the most professional. This was a time when the baby boom generation had reached the job market, and the country was still recovering from a massive recession in 1981. In 2015, right after amalgamation, the newly merged profession launched our answer to filling our need for accounting technicians. We were forced to admit defeat only 4 years later in 2019 when we had to jettison the Advanced Certificate in Accounting and Finance, affectionately known as the ACAF. Even the name smacks of pomposity and self-importance. The world had changed, and yet CPAs were congratulating themselves on how well educated we are. We weren't alone in this. In the 1980s, we began a process of outsourcing vocational training to universities. This may have made sense when we had a surfeit of candidates, but the shift in demographics has made this unworkable. If we were to use conventional corporate finance techniques like net present value analysis, we'd find that an investment in a CPA designation no longer makes sense. This is true because of the relatively minor differences in terms of median salaries for accounting technicians and bookkeepers compared with those of CPAs. What's more, investing 4 years in earning a university degree not only delays earnings, but also contributes to a misplaced sense of entitlement amongst graduates. We only need to look at this priceless FedEx ad about MBAs from 2006. Check out the link below. Step into a world driven by data. According to CPA Canada, disruption is everywhere, but CPA Canada is executing a plan to keep its members on the forefront of business leadership. In what was supposed to be a discussion, but sounded a lot more like a sales pitch, we were being exhorted to step into a world driven by data. It's hard to disagree with the importance of data in the world of business, but it seems clear to me that the leadership of CPA Canada doesn't actually understand who its members are and what the actual market for our skills and services is. I have to believe that this is the predictable result of the largest firms focusing on what is important to them. According to Statistics Canada, the accounting industry is relatively concentrated with the top 10 companies comprising 46% of all the industry's operating revenue in Canada. These 10 firms lead the industry, but their business models vary a great deal from those of the more than 18,000 CPA firms that make up the rest of the offices of professional accountants. That's NAICS code 541212. Not to mention the remaining 12,000 or so tax preparation, bookkeeping, and payroll services firms that round out the accounting services industry. For smaller firms like mine, tax and compilation services are the only things that we do. I gave up my assurance license years ago because my clients didn't need assurance services. For the 10 largest firms, advisory and assurance services appear to make up about 84% of their revenue. The source, Statista, and the big four firms themselves. While the largest firms may look down their noses at firms like mine and refer to what we do somewhat disparagingly as bookkeeping, firms like mine are actually specialists in working with small business. We work with the 96% of Canadian businesses that have fewer than 20 employees. While I am a Canadian shred specialist and sometimes work with larger firms, it can be quite challenging to help clients with very little in the way of accounting infrastructure. We must develop systems on the fly to assist with the compilation and tax compliance needs of our clients. I have to say that I resent the implication that we are less than professional because we don't perform assurance services. Instead, we focus on what we do, and by and large, we do it well. So it isn't clear whether the leadership of our profession doesn't understand the small business market that most practitioners function within, or if they think it is beneath the profession to be concerned with small business as the business leaders that we aspire to be. For our part, we would argue that this results from a failure to step into a world driven by data. Even more telling is the way my provincial association reports median incomes of CPAs in the province. The study that CPA Canada commissioned returned a median income of $108,000 for CPAs in BC. Yet when I scour federal and provincial statistical data, I invariably find that depending on assumptions, the median income seems to be in the range of $68,000 to $78,000. Both Work BC and the Canada Job Bank report median incomes of financial auditors and accountants, that's NOC code 1111, to be about $60,000. While the higher number is very convenient when we're trying to entice young people to invest in an accounting career, it seems most likely that the firm they commissioned to perform the study returned the result that CPA BC was looking for. Preparing the future-ready CPA. So what are we actually preparing future CPAs to be? New CPAs must first learn technical skills before they can aspire to leadership or management. Realistically, most will only become leaders or managers later in their careers, if at all. Our sales pitch to prospective students is designed to create the impression that 20-somethings with designations will immediately become invited to serve as captains of industry. This is simply hogwash. About 96% of Canadian businesses have fewer than 20 employees. Some of these will require accounting technologists or a new category of practitioner, sometimes referred to as a fractional controller or a fractional CFO. This is an opportunity for CPAs and is more important than our misguided emphasis on assurance services, which continue to decline in importance. While CPAs do have a monopoly on assurance services, these are not nearly as important as tax knowledge, corporate finance, valuation, or skills relating to information systems and projections, at least when it comes to small business. In our view, CPAs servicing small businesses, which are the mainstay of the Canadian economy, should focus on tax, assurance, or fractional controllership. Initially, though, unless CPAs are hired by a large audit firm with an audit practice, small business accounting firms with an emphasis on compilation and taxation are the best place to start an accounting career. Critically, we must be careful not to instill in students the notion that they are certified to lead or manage upon graduation or earning a designation. As CPAs, they must understand that they are embarking on a career that involves lifelong learning. Trust and ethics. Consider these three recent scandals: Panama, Paradise, Pandora. Who was prosecuted or disciplined? No one that we're aware of. Then there are the apparent problems with our larger audit firms, from David Milstead at the Globe and Mail. Canada's audit regulator cracks down on accounting firms, published March 30th, 2022. Canadian audit regulator dings two of the big four accounting firms, published March 3rd, 2022. Canada's audit regulator considers revealing names of firms that perform poorly, published July 20th, 2021. Canada's accounting firm problem child remains a mystery, published April 3rd, 2021. It looks like David Milstead at the Globe and Mail is having a bit of a moment taking on the big audit firms. Certainly, we should have concerns about our profession talking up ethics and the ideal of good business when a great many of our largest firms seem to have trouble keeping up their own standards of ethical behavior. Personally, though, I am most concerned over my own provincial body publishing what appear to be misleading stats regarding expected incomes. While outsourcing studies to third parties may give the appearance of plausible deniability, it is simply too convenient for our profession to attract new members based upon inflated estimates of income for CPAs. However, it isn't only our professional bodies that appear to be pushing ethical boundaries. Canadian universities are trying desperately to attract international students studying business and other career-related programs. These same students typically pay 3 times as much as Canadian students. Canadian universities are paying finder's fees to immigration consultants. Unscrupulous consultants then promise these same international students permanent residence if they attend the Canadian universities that they, the consultants, work with. The power of value creation. While it is enticing to believe that CPAs should create value, we must understand that our primary role has always been to measure it. If we do that well, the best of us will find ways to create value during our careers. But the same could be said for engineers, educators, or computer scientists.
At SBA Canada, we're working hard to reimagine the accounting profession. To do that, we think you'll agree it's important to take into account the real needs of Canadian small business.